people think that doing television, it's all glitz and glamour, and the guy who's joining me now is going to show that in full bloom, because there is nothing glitzier than a double wide on a Monday morning in Ponte Vedra Beach. Look at that set. Wow, look at that scene. Arron Oberholser, look at you.
Nothing but the best, Gary. Nothing but the best.
The double wide. Look, the intelligentsia of golf meets in double wides. And I'm telling you, I mean this, and you know this, some of the best times are in a trailer, because you're kicking around, you're chewing on the meat, and then you go and you do, the light goes on and you do what you do. But that time, I know you love that time.
We have always said at Golf Channel, what we need to film is the meetings that we have and put those on air rather than some of the shows. As you know, some of the meetings, that's some of the best golf chatter that we have every week, is in the meetings surrounding what we are actually going to talk about on air. And that all happens right here in the trailers.
No doubt. I was mentioning that you played in this championship 4 times. You made the cut every time. I know you wanted your performances to be better, but I'm curious, how was your game plan? Did your game plan the first year, did you struggle to kind of identify what you needed to lean into, and did it evolve at all over those 4 years?
Well, evidently it didn't evolve well enough, but I will say this. This is a golf course that you can't possibly have all the answers to. And it's much like another place that we play that every year, going back to an Augusta National. And I make that kind of, those similarities that are there between here and Augusta, because there are a decent amount of similarities, even though the design is very different. But the strategy is somewhat similar. And what the players are asked to do, they're asked to play a game of opposites to a certain extent, to where you get up on the first hole and the hole, Pete Dye's showing you a cut shot. And then the second shot, even though it's with a little short iron, he's showing you a draw. And then on the second hole, you stand up there and he's showing you a draw off the second hole, but then he's showing you a cut shot into the green. So that kind of hops around this entire golf course, is that this game of opposites that you have to play. And Augusta National's a lot like the same thing. I had a hard time playing that game because I had one shot. And for me to hit there and stand up and hit a controlled cut was very difficult. So I just kind of, certain fairways were a lot narrower for me because of the fact that I played a draw. Certain fairways widened up for me. So it was certain holes were very difficult for me off the tee, certain holes weren't. And same going into the greens, depending on where the flag was located. So it's just one of these golf courses that constantly keeps you off balance. And I think that it's one of the more interesting golf courses, obviously, that we play on tour. And I love coming back here, and I loved playing here, even though I never quite really truly figured it out.
Yeah, you said something that I think is a synonym for, whether it is, never figuring it out. When you don't feel like you have an answer, that I think it immediately makes you feel uncomfortable. Discomfort is right around the corner. It feels like there. So I preface those thoughts with this. Where is the underbelly? Where is the part of the golf course where I'm not saying that you feel much more comfortable, but that you feel you must take advantage of over the course of the 4 days? Do you think there is a stretch that you would consider be the soft spot?
Man, that's a great question, because I was actually I've been thinking about this for years around this place. And Gary, I'm not so sure there is. There is a double bogey waiting around every swing on every corner of this on this golf course. I guess if there's one stretch, 11 and 12, 10 can be, we've seen doubles and triples on 10, and that's just a 3-wood or a hybrid and a wedge or a 9-iron. And then you get to 11 and you can make an eagle there, no problem, with 2 great shots and a great putt or chip. But you can also, we've seen doubles and we've seen triples on 11. 12, the way they've redone 12, I think it's made the golf hole a lot easier than what before they put the lake in, even with the lake on the left. But again, if you get a little too over aggressive down that left-hand side, you can make a bogey or a double on a very easy hole very, very quickly. But if you're holding my feet to the fire, I would say 11 and 12. That's what I would. Outside of that, I mean, again, there's not a 3-hole stretch on the golf course. You go, oh yeah, I can relax and I can go birdie, birdie, birdie here, hitting good shots, not great shots. It just doesn't exist out here.
Yeah, it's not, I'm not going to suggest it's like the start at Pebble where you got to feast for the first 6 to 7 holes. But I do think I would include, think about this. So 9, 10, 11, 12, the 5th, 7th, 3rd, and 4th easiest holes on the golf course. So you have 2 par 5s, and 9 is, nine's very interesting to me, but nonetheless, it is a real bona fide opportunity. 10 doesn't require a driver. So, you play from the fairway, it's a short iron. That stretch to me, and I'm not suggesting it's, you ravage it, but if I was going to extend that, I would say it's 9, 10, 11, and 12. If you can play those 4 and 2 under, that you not have to do it, but you should be able to accomplish that.
I think I would agree with that. And I would go as far as to say that but I'll put this caveat on it. I will say that this golf course in particular, you can't take a shot off. You can't just kind of like semi-relax with a tee shot or a second shot on any of those holes. That's the thing. Is that whereas certain golf courses where you can kind of lazy one out there, you can kind of go, you never go half-hearted through a routine and your process. But I guess there are certain holes that are going to make you relax, that literally relax, and you can really let it go. That's the hard part around here, is getting yourself to relax so that you can hit the shots that you want to hit. Because in the back of your mind, if you go in that left bunker on 10, you bring a lunch pail. And if you go in the Sawpalm Meadows to the right, bring a lunch pail. So there's just no relaxation on any shot. You have to have 100% focus all the time. Now, if you pull those shots off under those circumstances on those holes, you are going to be better set up, to your point.
Yeah, and 9, to me, it's the narrowest entry of a par 5 I've ever seen or played. And you can, you hit a great drive and have a reasonable iron in your hand, and then all of a sudden you're standing on your head on a chocolate drop for your 3rd, and you've thought in your mind, I can make 3 here, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, 5's good. It's all relative, but I think that's the stretch. Let me ask you this about you and your mindset. In 2006, you finished 23rd on the money list, and you were ascending in a way that was not unreasonable, that you were going to then reside inside that elite bubble. That elite bubble now seems to be more insulated than it was 20 years ago with the Signature Series. Are you concerned that the firewall being created that we think is going to be fortified even more is good, bad, or can be interesting for players going forward who are outside of that firewall?
I think it's going to be tougher for those players for sure. I'm not a fan. And listen, I benefited from the World Golf Championships when we had the World Golf Championships, which we have 4 of every year. And the signature events are a little bit like those. And basically, if you were in the majors and you were in the WGCs back when I played, if you had a top 10 in a major and a top 10 in a WGC, it was a kind of a self-perpetuating, self-feeding system where you weren't, more than likely, as long as you stayed upright and didn't injure yourself, you were probably going to stay inside the top 50 as long as you kept your head on straight. That's kind of what these do as well, to a certain extent, is that they're just kind of self-perpetuating. Now, it's going to be tougher to break in. It wasn't as tough when I played to break into that top 50 in the world. I think it's going to be tougher for players potentially to break into that top 50 in the world. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out when this whole new schedule comes out and everything happens. But I personally would like to see 120. If you're going to do this, if you're going to cut back the fields, I think you got to add to them. So, I don't mind I don't mind having shorter fields. That's fine. You can have shorter fields, but I don't think you can have these 72 and 80 player fields. I think it's got to be minimum of 100, cut to 60 and ties, or minimum of 120, cut to what we have now, 65 and ties, and then go from there. I just think that I need cuts.
Yes.
I need to make Friday needs to be important. Friday afternoon needs to be important. I watched Friday afternoon at Bay Hill because it was there was a cut, but the cuts. I think the cuts at the events, the signature events that we have cuts at, they're somewhat inconsequential in my humble opinion. I would like them to be more consequential, and I'd like to have them. I'd like them to have bigger fields.
Yeah, look, what you did for a living, one of the most admirable aspects was the rewards are the consequences that come every week. And rewards and consequences, they come twice, Friday and Sunday. And if you're not good enough for 2 days, then you suffer those consequences. And you're right in terms of the longer the field, the importance of the player whose profile is lesser, making that cut makes that Friday afternoon even more, it has more weight to it.
Well, and just common sense to me says more players, more competitive, less players, less competitive. I mean, it's fairly simple in my opinion.
All right, last thing, Scheffler, because he's the best player by a couple of strides, his rounds are referendums, not just the result on Sunday. Is the data telling the story of him having here that is a win, a third, a fourth, a 12th, and a 24th? What data point is the most telling?
The data point for me is his right now is his strokes gained approach.
Yep.
I mean that's, and it's interesting because when you look at his strokes gained approach and you look at how great his iron play has been over the last 2-3 years, you begin to realize how important iron play really is based on what he's done the last few tournaments with his iron play. And you're like, he's kind of smoke and mirrors, especially those weird starts that he had on the West Coast swing with those Thursday morning starts that he had. And I would say that people are starting to realize, who didn't realize it before, how important out here iron play is. It's the bulk of the strokes gain that you get on the PGA Tour is going to come from iron play, and how you set yourself up and how you make most of the birdies that you're going to make come from iron play. So iron play for me, especially with Scottie right now, that's the ironclad sticking point for me. Watching him and going through what he's doing, he's just not hitting it very close. I would say his greens in regulation. He's still hitting a decent amount of greens, but he's just not giving himself the same amount of opportunities that he was, and he's hitting some very uncharacteristic short irons. This is just a thought exercise here. I don't want anybody to take this and run with it and be crazy here, but I'm just wondering how much effort he's put into making this new driver work, and if that's not affecting the rest of his golf swing. That's just a thought. So, and because as a player, you want the latest and greatest in your bag, like Scottie does. He's going to get more speed with the new driver. He's going to get this, he's going to get that. But if it doesn't fit the rest of the set exactly the way you want it, as a player, I know you're willing to make some tweaks maybe with that golf swing to make something happen that maybe shouldn't be happening. So that's the one thing that's kind of sticking out in my mind as a very loose theory of mine.
Listen, thank you. Great to see you. Look forward to watching you all week on Live From. Look forward to seeing you down there. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, there is Arron Oberholser.